So, okay, I'm at this point where I can just pull out every ridiculous move that you can imagine whenever I like. You ask me what would I do if I would have to start over again if a fairy's taking all of my skills. I mentioned 3 things. First of all, kill the foundations, starting with basic calisthenics to build strength. I would just work on my jumping skills, probably pick up a practice like animal flow, walking on all fours, and being able to coordinate your right hand with your left foot at the same time. Different things that are actually fundamental for acrobatics or handstands later on. Because if you don't have these fundamentals, you're lost by yourself. Then get a mentor who can actually, out of his experience with his mistakes, tell me these are the exercises that you have to do, these are the muscles that you have to develop. And then understand it's a very long marathon and you have to be consistent. If you want to unlock a very high level skill, there is a specific time that you have to dedicate. You can't just learn it like on a side hustle every now and then. If you're a beginner and you want to learn one of these cool things, maybe a handstand, maybe like a macaco, just make sure you really want this. You're really committed. Like you will do what you have to do to get there. It's not just I kind of want this, but I'm really going for this. This needs to be in your mind. So keep grinding, keep loving, and give it your best.
And with that, welcome to another episode of Moving Mindset. Today's guest is Theo Necker, widely known as Mindsetoftheo. He's an internationally acclaimed movement teacher who has a huge global community, over 1 million followers on Instagram, and Theo dedicated over 15 years to his movement practices such as parkour, breakdance, capoeira, cliff diving, climbing, yoga, meditation, hand balancing, just to name a few. And today we will take a deep dive into Theo's journey, his teaching philosophy, and how he continues to inspire millions. Without anything further, let's get straight to the episode. Theo, so glad to have you here. How are you doing, man?
Thanks for having me, Anis. My pleasure. It's great to be on your podcast. I'm actually quite good. I'm just looking out of the window. I'm 6 hours ahead of you. It's still a sunny day. So all good. Ready to talk about some good stuff?
Yeah, man. Like, honestly, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but maybe you can give a quick overview over your movement journey. Like, how does somebody end up doing all these kinds of things?
Yes. So I think what's cool for the listeners is not just to hear my story because I'm just a random dude they listen to, but more like what I took out of my journey and what could be useful for them. Started as a teenager. Actually, I started as a little kid with 4 years of age to play football. Running after a ball, kicking it was not the most difficult movement discipline, but it made me agile and I was good with dynamics. And from there on, I started to discover parkour when I was a teenager, 14, running up walls, figuring out I love flips, jumping off walls with backflips and stuff. Transitioning to tricking, which is then just combining mixed martial arts with tumbling, doing some flips and kicks. And from there, I moved on to breakdance, understanding rhythm and doing more exercises where I'm more on my hands and less on my feet. And then this kind of fucked up my body. So I transferred more to capoeira, which is more soft and flow moves overall. Then I did my yoga teacher training, focused more on partner acrobatics, handstands. I mentioned cliff diving, climbing. So this is roughly my story. All of these disciplines were present for like 2 to 3 years. And then I focused on something else. It was always like chapters in my life. But what you can take out of this is actually that all of these things are more or less the same and they are all somehow connected. It's so easy for me to enter a new discipline, let's say capoeira, because I did flips before and I understand how to balance on my hands because of breakdance. So all that I have to understand is the principles of capoeira. I will never be the best capoeirista because I don't only focus on that, but it's very easy for me to pick up the basics and then move on to more intermediate skills just because I have good foundations. So I think it was Ido Portal who said a ballet dancer and a martial artist have lots of things in common they just don't know. Like their footwork is quite similar. They think they do completely different things, but it's actually the same. And this is what I would like to point out of my journey is like all of these things are actually connected. And once you start developing one of these columns, the next column will feel much easier and the next one will add and add and add. Just because it's more or less the same thing. You work with your own body, you learn coordination, balance, stamina, flexibility, strength. Like it's an overall body weight movement journey. And whichever new chapter you open or whichever new door you open, you just learn more with every discipline.
Yeah, amazingly said. Like this metaphor arises to me like languages, right? So for me, I'm learning Spanish right now, and I know three languages prior, which makes it much easier for me to learn Spanish than somebody who knows only one language. And all this vocabulary that you acquired, like from capoeira, breakdance, and so on, is also like learning another language, like another sport, another language. And I would be curious, do you revise once in a while? Like, do you go back and practice some breakdance, or like, what does your training look like at the moment?
Yes. So first of all, congratulations on learning four languages. How do you call that? Like polyglot? Like you're multilingual? So you got English, German, Spanish, and Turkish?
Yeah, but Turkish is my weaker leg. Let's
Yeah.
say I'm almost better in Spanish than Turkish, even though it's my
Yeah.
heritage. So I got to practice that.
Yeah, it's a good comparison to compare language learning with movement practices. When I teach beginners, let's say animal flow or capoeira is a good example, they always just want to do the fancy moves directly right away. And to break down things into single steps and to understand the foundations is like learning vocabulary. The more vocabulary you know, the easier it will be for you to communicate. Understanding like flow of language, listening and writing and reading, understanding some type of grammar. So there are different layers of things that you need to understand. For capoeira, it could be like flow, it could be floor work, it could be kicks. And if you understand these things, the more repertoire you have, the easier it is for you to put it together and actually speak a language and move like a capoeirista. So that's a beautiful comparison that you just picked up there. So your question was, if I pick up one of these disciplines now and then and practice more breakdance again or practice this and that again. So the beauty, as I said, is actually it's all connected. And I would say my training schedule these days is very foundation or fundamentals orientated. I'm not trying to do the next double backflip. I'm not trying to unlock the next crazy skill. Like I'm 30 now, and actually, for me, it's just to understand movement better and to become a better teacher. And I teach most of the time foundations. And once you unlock these more advanced skills, they're actually always there. Even though if I didn't do, let's say, a cork, which is a single leg backflip with a 360 twist, I haven't done that for 6 months. If you just bring me to the beach and be like, cork, I will always be able to do it. Maybe the first one will not be as smooth as this third one, but it's kind of like riding a bike. It's just in my body and I know what I'm doing. So I adjust to whatever surroundings I have. Right now, here on Bali, my practice is quite animal flow and handstand orientated for the reason that I just have like concrete. I don't have a garden, I don't have grass, I don't have sand. It's hard for me to practice flipsy or like breakdance spins because I don't have like a clean floor where I could actually do stuff like that. So I just try to use what I have. Last weekend we went to Canggu Nirvana Strength, like a really nice gym where lots of inspiring people are. And once I was there, I was just flipping all of the time, right? Because I had like a tumbling track or like a good floor with soft mats. So I just adjust to whatever the environment gives to me. And then I have like periods where I focus on specific things where I'm like, okay, it would be nice to focus more on acro yoga now because I'm with a person who's really good at that and I can improve right here now. Or these days when I see Red here, Red Radoslav, good friend of ours on Bali, we just do lots of handstands because he's more interested in that than, let's say, in breakdance. So I just see what my environment gives me and then I react. It's more like I just love movement and I pick up whatever comes. And it's less that I'm like, okay, I need to do breakdance on Mondays, I need to do capoeira on Tuesdays. It's not like that. I just whatever my body needs or what I feel inspired to do, I just do it.
I love that. Like this openness. When we spent 1 month together on Kopangan last year, and we never had like a clear training structure. There were like maybe a couple occasions that we trained with rings, but it was always, hey, let's go to the beach, do handstands, let's do this, and always what comes up. So I really like this spontaneity. And I get what you say. Once you learn the skills, sort of, and now if you did nothing at all, probably the skills would deteriorate. But because you are practicing the foundational stuff and keeping like your machine oiled, an old horse, I don't know how the saying goes, but doesn't forget how to jump or whatever. Like you get what I mean. You also said that you train beginners and with animal flow. And one of my teachers told me his training immensely improved once he got into teaching and he understood it all differently. And I would pass that question right over to you. Like, how did teaching influence your training?
Yes, wonderful question. Let's just get back to the last question one more time. When we think about learning something new, because it just comes up to my mind, I have like a pull up bar next to my pool. And since I'm on Bali, I just work with the training schedule for the front lever with Dr. Yad. I just met him. If you don't know him, he's a calisthenics monster from the Netherlands. I just met him last weekend, and I've been training with his program for 5 weeks now. So there I do have a structure because it is a skill that I would like to unlock, and I don't have this skill set in my repertoire yet. So 2 times a week I have a schedule. I just go to the pull-up bar, I do my sets, I do my reps to unlock this move. But once I have it, I won't practice it the same way like I do it now. It was the same with backflips, it was the same with breakdance moves, it was the same with flow moves. There's a period where you really need to focus and put all your energy on this one skill to make good progress. But once you have it, you can kind of neglect it for a couple of days, weeks, months, and it will still be there. It's not that you lose it and you have to do it every other day. If you reach a specific point, it will always be there. For people who are interested in learning a specific skill, I would say dedicate a couple of weeks, maybe even months to it. And once you have it, you can focus on something else. Once you have a specific skill set, like I do it now, you can just use it whenever you like it. But to unlock it, you really need to focus for a couple of months on this specific skill. Now, getting back to your next question, which was, help me out again.
How did teaching, don't worry,
Yes.
I got you, man. How did teaching influence your practice?
you got me. Professional. Perfect.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
The most beautiful thing about teaching is you get to know, let's say, a specific move from a perspective that you haven't seen before. For example, as I said, I played football and I was quite dynamic. It was always easy for me to have explosive power. So it was likely that I will learn backflips quite easy because I had good jumping power. It was just understanding the technique, overcoming the mental barriers, and I'll be there. And once you start teaching that, you just assume that everyone else has the same standard and the same qualities like you do. And then you realize, oh, wow, this person cannot jump 5 centimeters. So first we need to build the jumping foundations, like teach a person how to jump, how to create explosive power in the legs. And suddenly you start educating yourself on topics that you actually never focused on before because it wasn't the thing for you. But then you realize, oh, wow, that's actually something that I could also improve. So my backflip becomes better. It's a very interesting journey with the handstand. You're also a handstand teacher. And I think handstands are so detailed. It's like its own discipline. And with every student that you get, you kind of know the common mistakes. But every student brings in something new where you have to get creative to help them out of their misery or just find out a new way how to explain it, find new words, find new cues. So the more you teach other people and the more people you have ever taught, the more experience you learn and the more ideas you get about this specific move, let's say the handstand. And then it's easier for you to become better with your handstand too. Because if you just start like understanding a thing really when you talk about it, when you communicate about it, when you reflect it, when you analyze it, and you normally don't do that if you just practice by yourself, I would say.
It's just this ability of bridging the gap between the skill and another person, not even yourself. Like, you have built that bridge for yourself, but maybe your bridge looks like this because you had the explosive power, but another person's bridge is like over here and there. And like, this is going to be interesting for the people who watch the YouTube video. I had the same, for example, when I taught my girlfriend how to handstand, and she has much more fear than I had. Like, when I started, I had a good foundation. I was not very gracious. I fell like once or twice, but I never hurt myself because I knew it's gonna be all right, you know. But for example, with her, she was very afraid. Like, the moment she's upside down, her brain doesn't work anymore because the fear takes over. And then to learn and not get frustrated and be like, oh wow, am I a bad teacher, what is happening, to just learn how to bridge that gap individually, right? So that is a really
How
interesting
did you do
thought.
that?
So first we brute forced it, which didn't work because I tell her, please bring your legs together, and as I said, like, the fear takes over and she cannot do it. And then we slowly, I asked her, like, okay, show me your cartwheel. Okay, she has no cartwheel. So we worked on that first to get a semi solid cartwheel. And now that that's taken care of, we can move to the sort of next progression where she puts her feet on an elevated surface and jumps, and then at the wall and jumps. And while we're still not 100% there yet, I also realized, like, okay, for who is this more important? Like, for me to be like, okay, I'm a handstand teacher, my girlfriend needs to know how to handstand, or for my girlfriend, does she actually want to be able to hold the handstand? You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of this
Yeah.
ego thing, to not identify yourself with it too much, and to also understand, okay, between me and another student, it would be way different because we already have this relationship dynamic where all the patterns and all the unconscious power dynamics get mirrored in this student teacher relationship. Whereas with another person, it would be we start from zero, and it's much easier to create this distance and not get
Yeah.
emotionally attached to the outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Makes it extra difficult, extra hard. But two things actually that we talked about already are an example of what you just said. First of all, you didn't have this fear, this amount of fear, and she has it, and now you need to learn that. So through teaching, you become better at understanding handstands. That's like a perfect proof of what we just said. And the second one is she was afraid to hold the handstand. So you actually reverse engineered. You were like, you don't have to be afraid if you can do a cartwheel, because if you fall over, you will just wheel out. How good is your cartwheel? Oh, you don't have a cartwheel? Well, let's work on that first before we think about the handstand. So this is the language example where I said people are like, I want to speak this language, or they just grab a book or want to watch a movie. But the first thing would actually be like, oh, how do I actually understand the alphabet? Or which are the 50 most important adjectives that I need to know? So it's not, this is handstand, let's go for handstand. Oh, first I need to understand how to protect my shoulder blades. I need to understand how to do a cartwheel. I should maybe hold a headstand first and understand proprioception where my legs are above my head and inversion. And so, two good points that just summed up what we talked about before. I like that.
Yeah, I also love that you shoot a question back. You caught me a little off guard there, but I like this spontaneity and exactly what you said, to also realize that we are all a little bit delusional when we start something new. Like, the more things we started, I would say you are way less delusional if you start something new than if somebody never did any sports in their lives before, because our brains work like this. We see that, for example, a backflip, and we're like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then you try the backflip, you almost kill yourself, and you're like, oh wait, maybe it's not that easy, and maybe there's more to it than just what I see. Exactly as you said, right? It's so many nuances and so many little steps. And if we go down all the way here and just tweak this one a little bit, it could be that all of a sudden the whole skill unlocks, and it was just one weak link in your entire chain that was holding all of it back. Let's have a little switch here. As I said earlier, we spent 1 month together on Koh Phangan in Thailand,
Which was
and we
amazing.
shared rooms. Yeah, it was amazing time. I will never forget that. And we shared rooms for most of that time. And I was not so much into building my business. I was more about living the good island life. So I always snoozed in, and I vividly remember you always got up at like 6 a.m. like, all right, time to work now. And then until the end of the day where you went to bed, to just repeat it over and over every day. Only if you were like really, you had, I remember once you had like the flu or something, like you were really sick, and you were like, okay, maybe today I don't train and maybe tomorrow not. Okay, now I'm a little better. Let's go. Let's get at
Yeah,
it.
I remember.
So I would be curious as to that honestly, I've never seen that before. How do you do that? Like, I feel like you get your dopamine in a very healthy way. You know what I mean? Like, you get it
Yeah.
how we should get it, by doing hard things. And how did you get to that point, and how do you stay at that point?
First of all, I would say the way I live, or what you saw in this month, is not balanced. It is very productivity driven. It is,
Hmm.
well, I tackle the day and I'm most efficient, and I don't go and watch a waterfall, and I don't take a yoga class, and I don't chill at the beach. I got my schedule. I want to get this done. Let's go. This is not for people who actually just want to be like super present in the moment and aware and enjoy life and also be productive. I wasn't balanced and I'm still not balanced these days. And I'm going to give you two reasons why I am like that, what you just described. On a side note, I think if listeners want to dive deeper in stuff like that, the best role model for that is definitely David Goggins, who just does what needs to be done. And there are so many people online explaining to us nowadays that motivation is shit and that discipline is doing it even though you don't feel like doing it. But the two reasons why I actually did it or why I'm capable of doing this for a long period of time, every day, again and again, first is everyone has a purpose in life and everyone should have a purpose. And I think everyone has a purpose, but at some point in our journey, we might don't see it or we don't know it and we need to figure it out again. But especially in that point and still today, I have a purpose that I can see quite clearly, and I know what actions I have to take to fulfill this purpose. That doesn't mean that this is the purpose of my life. Maybe in 2-3 years I'll be like, found something else, like solve this one. Let's go for the next one. But for me, it's I really want to help other people move better. I want to use my talents and push my gifts out in the world, which I did this for 15 years now, over a decade. I'm so advanced in movement, understanding the body and knowing how to do all of these tricks and skills. And I just really enjoy passing this on to other people. So when it's 6 a.m., I'm just like most of the time motivated to just create something. And also when the feedback kicks in and you grow followers and people be like, yeah, this is great. And you meet new people who are doing what you would like to do and growth is happening. Like it's just momentum. There's push behind it and it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. So this is definitely in my favor and it works pretty well these days. Also back last year in Kopangan. And the second reason, which actually takes that place whenever what I just described is not present enough to get me out of my procrastination, the second thing kicks in, which is fear or scarcity. There's a study that like they had a pipe and they've put a rat into the pipe. And then they put a string around the rat to measure how hard the rat is pulling. Did you know that study? About
No.
it's super interesting. So they just had this string on this rat, and in front of the pipe, they placed a piece of cheese. And the smell of the cheese went into the pipe, and the rat was like, oh, wow, there is some nice cheese. I want to survive. I want to eat. This is my dream. This is my wish, what I would like to have. And the rat started running for the cheese and pulled on the string, and you could measure how hard it was pulling. And then, same rat, different day, had the same amount of food, was like not starving, all like the same before. But this time they didn't place a piece of cheese in front of the pipe, but they placed a cat or the smell of a cat in the end of the pipe. And the rat smelled, oh wow, danger. There's death waiting for me. I have to get my ass out of this pipe. And the rat started running and was pulling on the string. And they could measure again how hard the rat was pulling. And it was way harder pulling when it smelled the cat than when it was smelling the cheese. I don't know the real numbers, the real examples, but running from something pushes you harder than running for something. And then they did a different or like a third attempt where they've put the smell of the cat and the smell of the cheese behind him and in front of him. And
Yeah.
the rat was again pulling as hard as if only the cat is there. Like the cheese didn't matter. So what this study shows is that we are at our best or we push the hardest if we run away from something or if we have like pain or fear of something. And at this point, when you saw me in Kopangan, I was still on a sabbatical. And I remember I knew that I will have to go back to Germany to work in my 9 to 5 job in an office. I used to work for the city council as an official, like an office clerk, just doing paperwork, and I hated it. My life was good. I don't want to complain, but I hated this 9 to 5. Like actually, it was 6:30 in the morning till 4 p.m. every day, and it was just wasted potential and wasted time. And I knew I need to seize this sabbatical. I need to build something in the time that I was given to not have to go back to this office. So the office was my cat in my head. And when it was 6 a.m., I rolled over and you were like, let's snooze. Maybe let's go and see a waterfall. I was like, fuck, I don't want to see the office. Like, I need to make this happen now. So like the second reason is always kicking in when the first one becomes a little bit more weak. Then I'm just like I'm running from something, and everyone has wounds in their life. Everyone has trauma. Like the office is just like one of the examples. There are many more scars and fears that I have that I'm still running from these days, which are my motivation. I don't know who said it. It was definitely in the podcast Chris Williamson with Alex Hormozy, where they said like the three character traits of very successful people. First of all, they think they are better than anyone else. Like they have an ego problem, you could say. They think they deserve better. They have special qualities. They need to be outstanding. They are a born leader, whatever. And I definitely think that I have some qualities which doesn't make me a better human, but which let me stand out in what I'm doing. The second one is they just simply think they are not enough. They struggle with self confidence or with they didn't get love as a child or whatever. They always have to prove I'm worth this. And they always think they are never enough. So they always keep going. They think they are better and they never stop because they always keep going. So this is already like a deadly cocktail. And then the third quality is they have impulse control. So no matter what happens around them, they can focus all of their energy onto this one thing that matters right now. And if you have these three skills, and you see that in all very highly successful people, in terms of like finances, business, athletes, like the best of the best always have these qualities. And I think somewhere it's always in each of us individuals. And for someone, it's more dominant than for others. And I definitely see a few of these qualities also within my own character. So I would say that also pushes a little bit of like, I need to do this now. Like I cannot just stay in bed. I have to.
That makes a lot of sense in hindsight, especially because at that point I was, as I said, at a very different point in my life as well, and I could not fathom like how does this man do it? Like how? And also when we were staying with Radoslav, who you mentioned earlier, we stayed three of us in one place, and he was doing the same thing, and I was like, what's wrong with me? You know, I was like doubting and stuff, but it makes a lot of sense actually. And I've never viewed it from that point because a lot of this new age spirituality is like, yeah, you're enough and you don't need to. And also in yoga, like, be happy with the present moment. And while all of that, of course, is important in the way, like, what we have right now is all we have, it's not better than it is at this moment. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to improve. We should strive to get a better situation and a better surrounding and meet new people and learn new things. So I really like that. I think I'm going to dig into that more because I haven't dug deep into the Stoic philosophy, just on the surface level. But they also said contemplate death every day, right? So every day you should get familiar with the feeling, okay, this might be the last day on my life. What do I want to do with it? How do you think about that? Do you have any life philosophy?
How old are you now? 25?
I'm turning 26 in a week, actually.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Remind me that I
And
call you. But Red and I, both of us are a bit older than you. So when I was 25, I was in a massive 180 like turn of my life. But at that point, I wasn't sure if I would be able to do what I did last year with 25. Just to give you an idea, like why it worked maybe for Red and me. Also with the yoga teacher thing, what you say, like as a yoga teacher, you are taught to not tell your people to enter a flow pose, but you invite them to join you in flow pose. So you're always like this nice guy. You're always like, as you said, just being in the present moment. This is all that we have. And it's important because we lose this in our days. But also I think we talked about this, about our daddy issues. The both of us, we talked about it. And I think we're in a generation where most men, we are just raised in a way where it's not that masculine in our generation, right? We are just raised most of the time by moms or like by feminine guys. And it's a big conflict if someone tells you now, like, just man up and do your shit. You just feel attacked and you'd be like, whoa, you just hurt my feelings. Like, I'm a human being. You should be nice to me. And it's so hard to get out of that. So I think that's another point that is important to point out. And now to your question, contemplating death, interesting. I know a guy who was super afraid of death. Every time when I talked with him about death or like someone dies who we knew or something, he's always like, wow, I hang so much on my life and Like, this would be the worst. I don't want to think about that. And I think then you just push away your fear if you just contemplate about death and you be like, yeah, that's part of the game. I understand it. I accept it. And I just use as much of my time as I have. I'm present. I'm aware of my death. It will make your life much more valuable and more entertaining. So it's a good thing. And I think, was it, as you said, Stoicism, was it Aurelius who had a slave running after him all day long, just telling him, you're still a human, you're still a human or something? I'm not sure if it was this specific sentence, like, you're still a human, but I think there was something about he doesn't want his ego to become like pushed or something because people look up to him, or he forgot about death or something. But I think he just had a slave. I don't know if he paid him, but he was running after him every day and just like, you're still a human. You're still. I actually like that. Imagine you would just have like a reminder every day who's like, you're gonna die one day. Like, seize it, be present, enjoy it. Like, don't
Mhm.
complain. So definitely promote that. Yeah, like death, and also lessons. If something negative happens to us, we just want to be like, oh, why me? Like, it's better to ask, try me. Like, this is another lesson that will just make me better and harder and understand where to go in life.
Yeah, I love that. And this Mark Aurel guy was like crazy anyways. He was like the pinnacle of masculinity in that way. I don't know if it's true, but he has written this book, right? Like Meditations. You probably also heard about it. And it's like a diary, but he just says what in his opinion is like a good human being. And apparently he wrote that while fighting in a war, but not only as the general, but also as a soldier, like in the front lines. Like,
Yeah,
man, what? Like, and he was the emperor. Like, he wasn't even forced to do that. He was just like, yeah, it's what I need
yeah,
to do. It's what needs to be done. And connecting to your point, what you said with the sort of daddy issues, like I also grew up with an absent father who was not really there, who didn't really show me, like, okay, sometimes in life you just gotta pull through. And I know, boo boo, your finger hurts, but you still gotta do this now. It was like this the other day. We're building a camper van right now, and I had like a tick that bit me. I didn't see it. My girlfriend discovered it later, and I was feeling nauseous and like, oh, I'm not feeling good. But we had to work on the thing, and she was like, no, no, you don't need to, you don't need to. But something in me told me like, okay, no, now is not the time. I can still do this. And I worked, and as I worked, I got into this focus mode, which made me pull aside like this, oh, I'm nauseous, whatever. And it got done. I did the work, and afterwards, like, I didn't die. And afterwards, I could still lay down, right? After the work was done, I was like, okay, now it's time to rest, to get this sort of perseverance. And I really like the point that you put up. I think there's a balance to it, right? Exactly what you said. If you go all out, I heard this quote once, if you go 100% every time, you never go 100% because your resources are just going to deplete if you never recharge.
yeah,
But also, like, being okay, no, today my left foot feels a little weird. No, I'm not going to do it today. Is not the way to go either. So to sort of find this balance between, let's call it masculine and feminine energy, or this doing and resting, or whatever you want to call it. And this ties back to another loop that you opened, or we opened earlier. Like, at this point, you were not in balance, right? You said you were not watching the waterfalls, you were not chilling at the beach, and you said you're working on that right now to create this balance. How do you create this balance in your life to wind down, to wind down from being productive, from moving?
yeah. So I would say I'm still not in balance. Like, I'm on Bali for 7 weeks now, almost 2 months, and I'm more or less just here by myself. I see red every other day for dinner or sometimes for handstands, but I actually don't make friends here. I don't go and socialize. Yeah. I went to Nirvana last week, just Canggu surf one day, but that's it. And I'm actually just only focusing on building my business, building my character, working on myself, reflecting. I think there is a period in life, especially for a man, where you have to go to solitude, maybe every year even, or just like throughout the year, one day in a week or something, where you're just with yourself to understand and reflect things and work on yourself. And I think this creates balance in the bigger picture, but that doesn't mean that my days are balanced. I'm still hustling a lot. and I could just have a little bit more balance and understand that relaxation and the feminine qualities of creation and dance and yeah, just like embracing and stuff is also good and important. How do I integrate that? Well, I think it's good if you have feminine energy in your life, maybe in terms of a woman, as you just said, with your girlfriend or with your partner, with your wife, whatever you have. Also, make appointments with yourself. So, I have a strict morning routine that is not I need to push, which is more like I need to observe. So, just be present in the moment. If I go out of my room on the balcony, I see the jungle of Ubud and Bali, and I don't have like music playing, I don't read a book, I just sit there and I watch the birds for like 5 minutes every morning just to be present and learn to calm down. So it can be part of your daily schedule, I would say. But yeah, balance is a tricky thing. I don't have the I don't have the secret sauce how to be perfectly balanced. But I think in my life right now it's okay that I just push hard because these are the days where I enjoy it. And there will be days where I will take it a little bit slower for sure too. It's like seasons, right? We have like summer, spring, winter, fall, and there are seasons where we push harder and there are seasons where we chill a bit more.
100% true. And also, I think to be exceptional, you also have to do exceptional things. And that's what you're doing right now. You're still in a growing phase. Like some people would be where you are right now and they would be like, oh, it's enough right now. But no, like it's still, you can still improve. There's still things to do. Maybe to make the cut here, to see what is maybe also the downside of pushing too hard. Like you've mentioned publicly also, but I also know from our talks that you've had some knee surgeries, and also you said earlier with the breakdance that knocked your body over. How did that happen? Maybe like just a short, if you want to go into it, and how did you overcome that?
I would say the injury is the vehicle to overcome your actual pain. Let me say that again. So I don't think that I had to overcome the injury. I think it's more that the injury is the vehicle that tells me or that helps me to overcome the actual problem. So the actual problem was I was like clinging so hard to I need my body and I need to do triple backflips and stuff. And then I messed up my knee. Like the first time it happened was a breakdance move where my foot gets stuck on the floor and I turned, my leg turned, but then yeah, I just broke my meniscus because my foot was stuck. It's like typical in soccer or football. If someone steps on your foot and you want to turn out of the motion and your foot is stuck in the position, you just tear your ACL or your meniscus. This is the first time it happened. And I was like, I will never be able to do what I did before again in that case. And I had like a very negative environment in that time, like especially my father was like punishing me for it. Yeah, you won't be able to play football again. Why did you do stupid stuff like that? And at that moment, I actually needed to learn this is just another lesson that I will get out stronger, right? Like if I take rehabilitation serious and if I believe and if I'm like positive and stuff, it will work out. So after the injury, after the rehabilitation, I realized like I can get back to this. Like it doesn't matter what life throws at me. It's always up to me which decision and which mindset I pick. And this will have a bigger impact on the outcome than the injury itself. So then it happened again. We were back home in my home city. We were practicing in a gym, and we created this ninja warrior parkour. And I was like swinging on a rope, and I didn't want to touch the floor, so I pulled my legs up, but the rope was too long, so my foot stuck on the floor, and my glutes, my hips were pushed against my heel pretty hard, so it overbent kind of, or like it was really hard compressed and also turn twist a bit in that moment. So it was just an old injury that like got fucked up again. Also, I have to admit that in the surgery they sewed it, they fixed my meniscus, they didn't took it out or something. So there was like scar tissue and it wasn't like a full functional meniscus. It was something that they just tried to fix. So the second time that they did the same thing and was like, okay, like be careful now, you're in your mid 20s, we fixed it 2 times, next time we won't be able to fix it again. But then I came out of recovery way better because I knew like, okay, I went through this one time, I know what I'm doing, and I got to be careful now, yes, but I'm good. And then it happened a third time, like 4 years ago, I think right before COVID or something. I was trying to do a front flip on concrete. And I didn't know why I wanted to do that, because usually I don't do front flips, especially not on concrete, because the impact is quite hard on your knees. I prefer to do a Webster, which is like a softer variation of a front flip. But I blocked in the floor and I felt my knee was just like popping to the inside. And I finished the flip and I landed. It was fine, but I was like, whoa, something was in the knee that is not good. So it was swollen again. Went to hospital, did the X-ray again, MRI, and they said, yeah, you got to cut your meniscus. Sent you to hospital, and they were like, yeah, this time we have to take it out. Like, we cannot sue it, we cannot fix it. When did you want to have surgery? And I was like, well, I can't move my knee properly. It's not blocked. I went through 2 times surgery, and I think I will just try to heal it this time by myself, because there was no urgency to fix it. And until today, like, there's still this cut in this meniscus. There's a part that is just apart from the meniscus, but it's fine. I'm not in pain. And with like very dedicated rehabilitation, I was able to get back to, I don't know, 98% of functionality. I can still do single leg backflips. I can do a lotus position. I can do a deep squat. I can do more with my knee than most of normal people. So yeah, actually, with every moment where I got injured or where it happened, I learned more about it, like finishing in the result, that I knew I can get back out of this without actually having to have surgery, and believing in my skills, and yeah, just listening to my body. So the actual pain or the actual problem that I had was just holding on too tight to my health. And I got this super body that can do everything. And once you take a little bit away from me, once you be like, yeah, let's break your arm, let's break your knee and see how you do, I was so frustrated. I was so much on the floor, on the ground, crying. I'm like, oh, this is my identity. You take that away from me. What am I doing? And actually, I learned through this injury, yeah, you can get through that, or you have to change your perspective. So actually, the injuries were like one of the best lessons in my life.
That's crazy that it was the same knee also 3 times, if I understood
Same knee,
correctly.
same meniscus. Yeah, it's like the weakest point of my body.
Holy shit. Life was really like, man, you gotta learn this lesson. Like, giving it, I see what you mean. Crazy. It's really crazy. A question pops up, but I just also have another story. Like, when I was on Kopangan, let's put it like this, I was like a little puppy, like here and there and there, and getting distracted and allowing everybody to, yeah, sort of come close to me, and I allowed my energy to leak everywhere. And then this one morning, I woke up and I felt completely shit. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna lay in bed all day today. And then I saw, oh, there's this dance today. Never mind, I'm gonna go there. And then I go and it's fine. I have a good time. And I come back and I have this bike crash where I almost die, but I got out really, really lucky. Like, for 2 weeks, I couldn't walk properly, but it was nothing. It was only skin damage. Luckily, I didn't break anything. Like, if I recreated that accident 1,000 times, I guess like 900 times I would probably at least break something, if not like get seriously injured. And it's really like, in these moments you can never compare the severity, but I was also like, oh my god. And like, and then at this one hand I had the newfound joy for like every moment and be like, wow, oh my god, like, this is so nice that I can just sit here and eat this watermelon right now. And on the other hand, it was like, fuck, like, what if I died? And oh my god, I can't practice right now. I can't do handstands. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm gaining weight. Life is over now. Like, exactly what you said, right? So
Yep.
I love what you said. Can you repeat that sentence?
It was not about overcoming the injury and getting back to normal life. It was more that the injury was the vehicle to overcome my actual pain. My actual problem was like, I was hanging so much on health, on my identity, on this thing. As you said, your thoughts come up. Damn, I'm gaining weight. I cannot train. Like, I'm not making progress. And just understanding acceptance, like, okay, this is what's happening now. I'm in a bad position in the chess game, but I can still make the best move possible in this position. And accepting
Mhm.
that I'm losing, but I can still make a move and doing the best move anyways. I think that's the lesson that I took out of it. And as you described it, I can enjoy this watermelon. Is the same experience. Like, you actually went through the same thing, I would say, that I did. And what I enjoyed, what you said, like life really was like punishing this lesson into my body like 3 times. If you don't learn it on the first one, life will get it back to you, and until you learn it. Was it Hormozy who said, like, same environment or same situation, different behavior? This is when you learn something. If you have same situation, same behavior, then you didn't learn anything. So yeah, the injury is actually the vehicle to understand your real pain, which is clinging onto something.
The injury is the vehicle to understand the real pain. I love that perspective, man. That's crazy. So I have one final sort of fun question. Imagine a fairy comes and it's like, bing, you're a basic human being that is functional but has never done sports. Like you can't flip, you can't handstand, you can't do all the cool stuff that you can do right now.
Yeah,
But you still want to get back to where you are right now.
yeah.
So how would you start? What would be your approach?
Very good question. Spoiler alert, that's actually more or less the title from my next YouTube video. It's like how I would learn how to flip if I have to start over again. So it's hard to get it all back because I went through so many chapters, as I said. It would take a lot of years to get back to what I'm doing. But I would do it way different, and I would understand a few things earlier. First of all, it's all about foundations and fundamentals, understanding the basics. I was just seeing the goal. I want to backflip, so let's go to a swimming pool and practice the technique of a backflip until I can do it on the floor, which is a way to learn it, but it's not the best and the most efficient. So, as I said, I would just work on my jumping skills, jumping foundations. I would seek out a mentor, a teacher who can actually, out of his experience with his mistakes, tell me what not to do so I don't get injured and I progress quicker than he did and I learn it the best way. So I would build my foundations, probably pick up a practice like animal flow, or starting with like basic calisthenics to build strength, or some freeletics, just learning burpees, stuff like that. So having the foundations. Then I would look for a mentor, for someone who can actually teach and explain to me. And then I would understand it's a long run. Like it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. I don't have to train 3 hours a day, 6 times a week. It would be more like train, rest and understand, reflect, analyze, train again. Because in my growing days, I was like pushing really hard, like 5 hours a day sometimes in a breakdance gym, and we were just destroying our bodies, like completely ignoring our signals and soreness and wounds and pain. We were just like, I want this move, so I go harder, harder, harder. And I think that's the hardest of the three things, to be so disciplined, not to stick to it, but to be so disciplined to understand that I will make better progress and then I will learn better if I take it step by step, slow in the long run, than just trying to fight for it within 3 months. So it would have to become a lifestyle pretty soon to understand how to go there. So these are actually the 3 steps that I would take. So building the foundations is everything.
There's a saying when I learned to play the guitar, my teacher told me, play it slow because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And that is, I think, ties back. It's interesting how all these different disciplines are still connected and it's almost always the same thing.
Yeah.
And you published something really, really cool right now.
Yeah.
And like, how should a complete beginner approach movement? Theo, please tell us.
Okay. I'm at this point where I can just pull out every ridiculous move that you can imagine whenever I like. And this is what people want to learn. So this is what I gave people. I was like, okay, you want to learn how to backhand spring? This is the road. Start with this level 1, go for level 2, do level 3, and then you're actually going to make it. These are the exercises that you have to do. These are the muscles that you have to develop. But I figured out like the gap for people to actually do level 1 is still too big, because they just come from a background where they never played football, where they never did parkour. They can't touch their toes. They're just sitting in a chair 9 hours a day, like I did in the office. They have no body control, no body awareness. And my mistake, I have to admit that, was that I was like, here are the instructions. Let me guide you through it. But it was just, I was thinking one step ahead. Like the pure fundamental basic exercises come before. And this is what I try to close this gap, and I think it's the right approach. with the program Start Smart, which I tested before on several individual clients. So in terms of my products, my offers, I have a high ticket offer, which is one-on-one online teaching for a couple of months with individuals who would like to learn handstands, more mobility, overall body awareness, just feel better, feel back like in your 20s, don't be stiff, get like more energized. And with these people, I actually tested these exercises. For the records, I'm not an animal flow teacher. I never took any animal flow course, or I don't have a license, but I know the moves. I went through like their script and I know what they are doing. And I also name a few moves different because I don't agree with how they call it. So it is animal flow what I teach, where we just get connected to the ground and we build foundations, like walking on all fours and being able to coordinate your right hand with your left foot at the same time, turning around, walking backwards, rolling efficiently, coming from a laying down position into a squat, reaching over your back, like different things that are actually fundamental for acrobatics or handstands later on. So this is Start Smart that I just practiced with these online clients. And then I was like, so if I don't have an individual person that I can give feedback right now, how can I still package this in a way that a person without having my feedback can still learn and progress through it? So I created a program where it goes 6 weeks, where you have one day of lesson and then one day of workout. There are other rest days, there are mobility classes and knowledge about movement overall and stuff integrated. It's not that only that simple, but it's like lesson, workout. So this helps that they get confronted with a new move where they have a super simple tutorial on how do I actually do this thing. They digest it, and the next day they have to put it into action with a 10-minute workout where they start sweating and they actually use what they just learned. And every week is building up a little bit on the other and it's getting more complicated. I integrate like basic fundamentals of capoeira. We work towards a cartwheel, so we enter the world of acrobatics. And yeah, this is what Start Smart is all about. It's a low ticket offer. You can find it in my app, which is the Movement Mastery app. There are like 10 different acrobatic skill programs, but especially Start Smart, which is a 6-week program where you just get guidance from me to go through these workouts and unlock these basic fundamental moves to then work on your handstand, then work on your cartwheel, then work on your back handspring. Because if you don't have these fundamentals, I just figured out like you're lost by yourself. So this is definitely an offer for the people who cannot afford or don't want to afford a high ticket service and just want to go for I do it by myself with your guidance through the app.
Amazing. And I've never really seen this before, because you need a certain level, like what you said, right? You are at a certain level and now your skills don't drop. But to get to a certain level, you need sort of this entry point. So if you're keen on learning like basically any advanced movement skill, I highly recommend you, like, please check out the Start Smart program.
One
Yeah,
question for you. Haven't you been working on
100%.
the aerial?
Oh man, oh man,
But because you're
uncomfortable. I
actually the
knew this
best
was gonna
example.
come.
You're a
I
good
knew it
example
was gonna
because you're a
come.
yoga teacher, you do calisthenics, you're flexible, you're strong, you have good coordination, proprioception, you're upside down in your handstand. And like we did some attempts on the beach where I gave you some feedback on different things, and you also had a look at the app and you tried a few times. Like, what is your experience with learning dynamic flips or doing these exercises? What is your takeaway? Like, even if it's critical on my teaching now, just say anything so the listeners have kind of an idea what it's like to set this goal. I want to learn this acrobatic move. What am I actually signing up for?
All right. So my experience in learning, like, so my training schedule is really tight, right? More tight than, like, let's say the average person. Like right now, I'm a little bit in the off season, but when I work with my personal trainers, it's 2 or 3 hours every day, 6 days a week, and it's really hard to cram something in there. But once in a while, I try and experiment. Like, let's say this was before I tried with your app, and then I notice, okay, like, even though it's not perfect, I can sort of get into the movement. And when I learned with your app, I was at a point where I was like super fatigued from my workout, and I didn't have the discipline to pull through. But it was really good to understand the theory behind it,
Yeah.
because uh, when I see the move, I'm like, as I said earlier, oh yeah, okay, that looks easy, I can do it. But then I got also some feedback from you, right, which is also cool, like the access to the WhatsApp group. And I ran like into every basic mistake that you could make when I sent you the feedback video. So it's really helpful to have somebody who is very capable of doing the thing you want to learn, who has went through the mistakes you will probably run through, to just tell you, listen, do this and do this and do this, and all of a sudden, bing, it improves and you are able to do it more or less.
You asked me what would I do if I would have to start over again if a fairy's taking all of my skills. And I mentioned
Yeah.
3 things. First of all, kill the foundations, then get a mentor or someone who's telling you what to do, and then understand it's a very long marathon and you have to be consistent. And I think you cover 2 of these things. You have the foundations, you are in a great body, you know how to move. You had a mentor with my guidance. And then, as you said, your training schedule is like super intense and you don't put it on a priority to actually unlock this move. What I said in the beginning, like if you want to unlock a very high level skill, there is a specific time that you have to dedicate towards this craft, this skill. You can't just learn it like on a thing that you just do on a side hustle every now and then. And I think this is the point, the screw that we have to fix if you would like to learn these things, is like dedicating the next 6 weeks, dedicating 2 months on this thing and just training like 2 times a week for an hour exactly on these things. And then I'm pretty sure you would make lots of progress. But yeah, it just comes down, what are your priorities? What do you actually want to learn? So again, for the listeners, if you're a beginner and you want to learn one of these cool things, maybe a handstand, maybe like a macaco, as Anna said, just make sure you really want this. You're really committed. To be committed means to devote oneself unreservedly. Like you will do what you have to do to get there. It's not just, I kind of want this, but I'm really going for this, right? This needs to be in your mind, and then just follow the steps that we just said. And for you, Anis, like I'm not sure if we see this year each other in Spain or maybe in Portugal or wherever our travel plans might connect us, but I would like to see you like flip and do some fancy acrobatic moves in real life. Of course, you're gonna get some classes and some feedback, but
That
it
would
would
be
be dope
amazing, man.
to have like a video where both of us aerial or macaco or something. That would be nice. So feel
Yeah.
inspired to put that on your priority list at one point in your life.
It's a good call that you're giving me right here, because in the grand scheme of things, like in my brain, it's like, okay, I will need to do 3 hours every day to get this now. But as you said, like 2 times per week, one dedicated hour training session is very much possible. And yeah, maybe I just have to get back into your app and just, yeah, see this as the next challenge that you gave me to be able to aerial when we see each other again.
It
That
depends
would
on
be a
what you
good
want.
goal.
It just comes down like, what is my priority? What do I want to learn, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Theo, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this past hour. It just flew by. And last words to you, if you want to say anything or anything more to close. And also, where can people find more of you?
So you'll find me at Mindset of Theo, Instagram, YouTube, Mindset, like positive mindset of Theo. This is where you can reach out, email, just go to my website, www.mindsetoftheo.com. My last words, what I would say is keep listening to Anna's podcast. There's lots of valuable content in it. Make sure to support everything and everyone who's trying to do something good in the world, and make sure that you are also a positive impact on everything and everyone around you. So keep grinding, keep loving, and give it your best.
All right. That concludes the episode with Theo. As I said, I spent 1 month with him. I grew so much in that time, and he's the real deal. So go check out his program, go check out his Instagram, links in the description below. And if you want to finally learn the handstand, get free access to my program, the Handstand Formula, link also in the description below. And with that, until next time.